I know sometimes people like to know where I am, so that blue dot, which is about as much as I'm going to zoom in, that blue dot is where I am at the moment. So a little bit to the west of Dublin, in a very, very hot and sweltery County Kildare. Right. So I can't remember if it was you guys or someone last year. No, I know for a fact last year when I gave my talk on security, there was a lot of questions about passkeys. It was definitely the topic that had everyone's attention because Apple were making a big song and dance about it, and it was on everyone's mind. So I promised I'd come back and I'd talk about passkeys. And so that is what I hope to achieve today. I hope to demystify this whole passkey thing. So for those who don't remember me from last year, by day, I am now the cybersecurity specialist with Maynooth University, having spent a lot of time as a Linux and Windows Server sysadmin, and I even did a little stint as a lecturer and researcher way back in the early 2000s. I am also involved in some open source software development and IT consulting as Bart Busschots Creations. I do two podcasts of my own, Let's Talk Apple, where I do a monthly zoom out of the Apple news. So there's a lot of daily shows and a lot of weekly shows. I think I'm the only monthly show. And it's kind of interesting to watch the Apple news develop over a month because you can see big picture trends that you may not get elsewhere. And then Let's Talk Photography is my passion show. It could be anything. The show has no fixed format. I talk about something to do with the art and craft of photography that has me excited at that particular moment. And you can also see me on Alison Sheridan's various podcasts, Security Bit segment on the NosillaCast, Taming the Terminal, and Programming by Stealth. Okay, that's enough of the ad. So this is the focus for today, right? The problem to be solved is authentication. So everything I talk about today is about fixing authentication. It's not the answer to life, the universe, and everything. No matter how good we get at authentication, there are still a million other problems, and passkeys won't solve them all. But I'm going to try convince you that passkeys are definitely the answer to this specific problem. We need to prove we are who we say we are to websites. We need to log in, basically. So that is very much my focus here. Why? Why do I think this is worth the effort of learning something new with the potential to be confusing? And the simple fact is that passwords are fundamentally flawed. They are built on a faulty premise and they were never going to work. We have spent decades trying to make them work, despite the fact that they're built on sand. We have failed miserably. Whereas passkeys are the opposite. They are secure by design. And while you can still make a mistake implementing a secure design, you're in a much better place if your design is fundamentally secure instead of fundamentally flawed. So I hope I'm going to convince you of these things, but that is my theory of the case. So before we dive into passkeys, let's actually dive into how passwords really work. So if you got to set up a password, what's actually happening? Well, you're going, the website says, "Hi, please tell me a secret. Make it hard to guess, don't use it anywhere else, and don't forget it." Okay. My secret is monkey123. You will keep that safe, won't you, Mr. Website? Absolutely. No problem. I've saved your password. Here's a link to all of the promises I make about how great a job I'm going to do at protecting your password. Okay. Can I verify all those promises in any kind of a way? No, you can't. Not actually possible to verify. Websites do what they say. So that's how we make a password. Not difficult. But the key point here is we've given the website a secret. To authenticate with a password is also extremely straightforward. "Hello, Mr. Website, it's me again, let me in." "Yeah, okay, if it really is you, give me that secret you gave me before. Monkey123. Okie dokie, come on in." So that's very straightforward, very simple. So how does this very simple setup go terribly, horribly wrong? Well, the first thing is, we humans are awful at being random. If you look at the passwords people choose, you can tell what's popular on television. You can tell what pet names are popular at the moment. You will find that the numbers tend to line up with months and dates of the year. We don't do random. We think we do random, but we're spectacularly predictable. We also aren't very good at remembering things. We are on a lot of web pages these days, which means if we want unique passwords, that's a lot of unique passwords. We're not going to remember them, so we're going to reuse them. We are also quite easy to trick, particularly if you get us worried, excited, or whatever. We can be easily tricked, so we can be phished, and we are phished often. All of us are. And of course, we trust the websites to protect our secrets. We gave the website a secret to keep. We trust that website to keep it. Websites are not doing that. There are data breaches in the news so often they don't even make the news anymore because websites are just terrible at keeping secrets. So it's not working very well at all. We've also tried to work around all of these shortcomings. So on the website end, in the very, very early days, there actually used to be a text file on the website that just saved everyone's password in a text file, which was a terrible idea. So then a little step ahead of that was that you would use a one-way hashing function to obfuscate the passwords, but every time someone used monkey123, it would give you the same random gibberish. So literally you could look those up on something called a rainbow table. So then we started salting our hashes. And then we started to do password-based key derivation. And in theory, if you do password-based key derivation really well, it's actually very secure. The problem is websites don't. We have a long history of them not doing it right. In terms of protecting us from ourselves, we have two-factor authentication, where we might have a hardware token, or we get SMS codes, or we use an automator app. We've taken that up a level with multi-factor authentication, where you throw in some AI to make sure that, Bart always uses a Mac and he's always in Ireland. Why is he suddenly logging in from a Windows PC in Jalalabad? That's not right. Block, right? That's multi-factor authentication. But you can literally go online to the dark web and buy a crimeware as a service where they will do the phishing for you, and you're basically paying someone in a data center, probably in Hyderabad or something, to in real time intercept logins on fake web pages and then use them on the real website and steal all of your money. So it's not working. Websites don't do it right, and we are still getting phished. It's not working. And the fundamental flaw is misplaced trust. We need to trust websites to do the right thing, and it's impossible for us to verify that they are. We need to trust ourselves to never be tricked. Everyone. I'm an IT professional. I work in an open plan office full of IT professionals. I have heard very colorful language emanating from the bottom of the room as our senior sysadmin realized he'd just been phished. It happens to everyone. Absolutely everyone, because we only have to slip up once. We have to get lucky every day, and that's just not going to happen. So the only way forward is to stop giving websites secrets to keep, and to stop relying on the human to be the one to make sure that we're on the web page we think we are, and so on and so forth, that we're not being tricked. So don't give secrets and don't rely on us humans to check things. And so this is where, believe it or not, cryptography of all things comes to the rescue. Because using a special type of cryptography called public key cryptography, we can have authentication without secrets being shared. So this is based on a special kind of encryption called asymmetric encryption. You're probably used to thinking of encryption like a zip file or something, where you give it one password and then it turns your file into gibberish. And then you give it the same password to turn the gibberish back into your file. That's symmetric encryption. With asymmetric, the keys come as pairs, like on a submarine, right? When you have two, everyone has to turn the key at the same time. And those two key pairs cancel each other out. So if you take key number 1 and encrypt something, the only way to get that back, to turn it from gibberish back into the original thing, is with the other key. And if you use the other key first, then you need the first key to switch it back. So whatever you encrypt with one, you can only get back with the other. So they are mirror images of each other. And what we choose to do, they're no different to each other, but we choose at the point in time we make them, we have two stickers. We give one of the keys the sticker private and the other key the sticker public. The private key we never, ever, 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 ever share. And the public key we can share as much as we like without affecting our security. So you can immediately see where this might come in useful. Well, if we can give websites public keys instead of passwords, then they have something that it doesn't matter if they lose it, which is, of course, exactly where we're going. So how could we use this instead of passwords? So to set up an identity on a website, the website would say, instead of please make up a secret, the website would say, please generate a key pair. Keep one secret and give me the other one. You would then do that and give the public key to the website, and that's it. You're now set up. When you want to log into the website, you say, hello website, I'm back, let me in. And the website says, well, if you are you, then you can decrypt this giant big random number I've just invented that I've encrypted with your public key. So the public key is used to encrypt a big random number. You can decrypt that because you have the other half of the pair. You have the private key, but only you. No one else on planet Earth has that matching private key. So you decrypt the giant big random number the website made up on the spot, and you hand it back to the website, and the website can then go, oh, you are you, because you proved to me that you do indeed have the private key that matches the public key I have saved. So the website has no secret. It has a public key and only a public key. So it has nothing to lose. So it doesn't matter if they're terrible. It doesn't matter if they leak things all over the place. They don't have a secret. So they can't lose a secret. This leads to the obvious question, why haven't we always done this? Because we've had asymmetric encryption for decades. Well, we actually have been doing this for a very long time, but it's been really annoying to do. So I know that certain websites where I have to file my taxes, I have to use something called client certificates to prove I am who I say I am to the Irish Revenue Commissioners. I know that banking services where you can transfer around millions of euros or pounds or dollars at the same time make you do client certificates. And I know that in a large corporate environment, it's actually practical to use client certificates because they have central management tools. But the reason regular folk don't use client certificates is because key management is difficult. Humans can't remember cryptographic keys. They're giant big blobs of random gibberish. The private keys have to be kept safe or they're not private. But if you're going to log in from your phone and your watch and your laptop and your desktop, well, then that private key needs to be somehow securely shared across all of your stuff. And everything between you and the website has to agree a mechanism for handing those public keys around. And so the reason we haven't done it is because until Passkeys, it was really bloody hard. All Passkeys has done is taken cryptography we've had for decades, actually added user-friendly key management, and that's all a passkey is. Public key crypto like we've had for decades with proper key management from soup to nuts, that's a passkey. Now, I need to, this is a slide which doesn't have a natural home anywhere else, so I'm going to stick it in here before we go any further, but there is a change that has been happening really slowly for the past 10 years at least. Like 20 years ago, you would log into a website and you would have one username and one password, and that was the only way you could get into that website. But a lot of modern websites let you have one account but lots of different ways of logging in. So a good example would be your Gmail or something like that, where you can log into your Gmail with a username and password, or with an authenticator app, or with a sign-in with Apple, or a passkey, or a hardware dongle. So it's now a yes and thing. So you can log into a website and just add extra ways of logging in. So you can have multiple ways of logging into the one account, which is very useful because it means that you can have a passkey and something else. And so if you're a little bit uncomfortable with passkeys because they're new and confusing, you don't have to give up the old to experiment with the new. And when you're comfortable with passkeys and they don't scare you anymore and you've been using them for a year and you realize that they're really cool, well, then you can stop doing things the old way. But the fact that we now have this idea of one account, multiple ways of logging in means that we can experiment in a much safer way. And that's the vague hand waving term for this new idea of one account, many ways of logging in is modern authentication. Kind of a meaningless term, but that's what it is to be modern, right? Lots of ways of logging in. Okay, so a reminder. The problem to be solved is authentication, and the answer is passkeys. So let's look a little bit more detail here. So I said that it was about key management was what had really changed. And the reason this has changed is because of this group called the FIDO Alliance. They are a not-for-profit coalition of everyone who cares about this. All the relevant stakeholders got together. They have defined the specifications for certificate. So basically what you need to do to take part in Passkeys and the certification to prove that you meet the requirements. And they've defined the protocols that make all of this work, which is something called FIDO2 and WebAuthn. Doesn't really matter what they're called. And the FIDO Alliance cover absolutely everything from hardware protection of your private key all the way to the website you're logging into. So you can buy hardware USB tokens that hold passkeys, or you can save your passkeys inside your iPhone or whatever, protected by a fingerprint scanner. There are things called a secure enclave built into modern motherboards that protect cryptographic keys. So dongles, security chips, biometrics, that's all part of the FIDO Alliance. Then you have the operating system helping you manage your passkeys. You have something called an authenticator we're going to talk about a lot. Your browsers are involved and the websites are involved. And all of these people got together into this one giant big organization called the FIDO Alliance. And that's why Passkeys has a chance of working, because it goes literally from the fingerprint sensor on your iPhone all the way to the website you're logging into is all covered by one suite of protocols and things. When I say it's everyone, it really is everyone, right? That is just a screenshot of some of the logos on their front page. I mean, immediately what jumps out at me is you have big players like, you've obviously the Microsofts and the Apples are all in here. You have Dell, you have Amazon, you have 1Password, Red Hat, PayPal, Visa. I mean, I could just pick out random logos forever here. This is seriously big players, right? On the hardware end, Intel, Dell, Lenovo, Yubico make the little YubiKey security dongles. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Red Hat make the operating systems. Firefox is in here. 1Password and Bitwarden are in here. Lots of banks are in here. PayPal, eBay, Meta, TikTok, Yahoo. You have government organizations in here. In the US, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, are involved. In the UK, the Cabinet Office, for some reason. You think they'd have more to be doing than worrying about passkeys, but they're here. The Digital Transformation Office in Australia, the Federal Office for Information Security in Germany. Right, I could go on. You get the idea. The FIDO Alliance is all the big players, which is why this thing has a chance of working. Okay, so how does all this work? So the first concept is the concept of an authenticator. And the authenticator's job in life is to securely store your passkeys, to keep those private keys private. I don't like the name authenticator. I wish they had called it a keychain or a wallet or a locker. Like, it's storage. The name authenticator doesn't say storage to me, but an authenticator is a place you store your passkeys. And so you can buy them as little hardware dongles, which is really good if you're like a government official or something who's really, really at threat. Not for us regular folk. But thankfully, you can have software authenticators, and those software authenticators can use the biometrics built into our iPhones and our Macs. So they can use Touch ID and Face ID to protect our private keys. And the reason that passkeys are finally happening is because the operating systems all now work as an authenticator. So your iCloud keychain is a passkey authenticator. The Windows Credential Manager is a passkey authenticator. And the Google Password Manager on Android is a passkey authenticator. So our operating systems can store our passkeys safely. The next question then is, well, what is in a passkey? It's a passkey is three things. You have the public and the private keys. I guess they're one, maybe it's one and a half things. Anyway, the public and the private key. The private key never, ever, 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 ever leaves the authenticator. The authenticator makes the key pair, and the authenticator never tells anyone or anything what the private key is. It never leaves the authenticator. The public key gets shared with the websites. The other thing the passkey contains is what the specification calls a bound identity, which for you and me and regular folk is what website does this belong to and what username does this belong to. So if I have a Gmail account for work and a Gmail account for family stuff, I can have two passkeys. I can have one of them bound to google.com with my work username and one of them bound to google.com with my personal username. So the bound identity is the who and the where. And so those together are your passkey. Private key, public key, who and where. The only thing a website ever sees is that public key. So the authenticator keeps it all. The website only ever sees the public key. So how do all of these pieces get joined together? The answer is your browser has work to do. So you have the authenticator holding all the passkeys safely, and the website that only ever gets the public key. Who connects those together? Who joins those dots? That's your web browser's job. So the web browser passes the public key to the website. The browser gets the username and the domain name from the website, and so it passes the information over and back. And all of that over and back and over and back and over and back is all done over one protocol managed by the FIDO Alliance called WebAuthn. And the WebAuthn specification is extremely pompous. The word for the process of logging in is not process, it's a ceremony. A registration ceremony is how you make a passkey, and an authentication ceremony is how you log into a website. I think it's ridiculously pompous, but anyway, ceremonies are how you use passkeys. So let's look at how these two ceremonies work. Right, so how do we set up a new passkey? The website gives the browser the username that the passkey is going to be for. The browser knows what website you're on, so the browser can add the website name to the username. So the browser now knows the two pieces of information for the bound identity. The browser then says to the authenticator, make a brand new passkey for this user on this website. The browser then gives the public key and only the public key to the website, and the website adds that public key to your account as one of the ways you can log in. So that's registration. How does it work when you want to log in? The browser says to the website, hello, user Bob would like to log in. The website says, okay. I'm going to give you what the specification calls an authentication challenge, which is just a giant big random thing encrypted with that public key part of the passkey. The browser hands the challenge, the username, and the website to the authenticator. The authenticator asks the user to unlock it, which means Face ID or Touch ID if you're in Apple land, to unlock the authenticator. Then the private key is accessible. After making sure that that the username on the website match the passkey, then the private key is used to decrypt the challenge, and the decrypted version of the challenge gets the fancy pants name of an assertion. It's just a decryption of the challenge. The browser then hands the assertion to the website, and the website checks that the assertion is indeed the random gibberish it sent in the first place, and it logs the user in. So what are the key points here? The website never ever gets any secrets. I may have said this once or twice. Right? The website does not get any secrets, so the website can't lose any secrets. Now, a bit that causes a lot of concern is I'm using my fingerprint, and I only have one thumb. I have two actually, but I only have a finite set of thumbs, and I'm giving my thumbprint to Google. No, you're not. You're using your thumb to unlock your iCloud keychain on your device and nowhere but your device. So those biometrics don't leave the authenticator. They are not part of your passkey. They're not handed to the website. The browser doesn't even see them. The only place that the biometrics are used is to unlock the authenticator. So for us, that means unlocking the iCloud keychain. So the biometrics are not shared. And that's really important, because if it was, that would be a giant big problem. But they're not, so it's not a problem. The other thing is that this is phishing resistant, because the browser and the authenticator together check that the passkey really does match the website that's asking you to log in. So if you go to paypal.com with a capital I instead of an L, you will not be allowed to use your PayPal passkey, because PayPal with a capital I is not PayPal, and the domain won't match the bound identity, and the passkey just won't activate. It won't even appear as an option. You won't be allowed to choose it. The computer will just say, no, I don't have a passkey for this weird website that isn't right. Now, you, the user, might be tricked, and you might be very confused. Why is my passkey not working? But you can't be phished, because the computer is not going to give you the wrong passkey. It just can't. The passkey is bound to the website. The browser checks the website. The human is out of the picture here. And the last thing that's important to realize is that passkeys cannot be abused for cross-site tracking, because every website plus username gets a different passkey. So my personal account on Gmail, my work account on Gmail, my personal account on Apple, all three of those have a different passkey each. So the public key isn't ever duplicated. One public key for one username on one website. So it can't be used to connect different copies of me together. So it can't be used to track me across the internet, which is also, I think, important. You know, privacy is as important as security in many ways. So that's why passkeys rock.
Bart, is this a good moment
Progress.
to stop?
It is a fantastic moment to stop me, because I'm about to go on to something different.
Fantastic moment to stop me, because I'm about to go on to something different. Fantastic moment to stop me.
This doesn't sound great. I have no idea what's causing this. Any thoughts?
It's Jeff Blundell. If you could mute him, please.
Right, thanks very much. I will find him. Oh, he's muted now. Ah, and relax. So
that was interesting.
Chris Wesselman, I think possibly part two of your question has just been answered, but if you'd like to unmute and just ask your question, that would be great.
Yes, hello. I think we did answer the second part. But I was just curious, Bart, why I set up some passkeys about a year ago with Google and other places, and believe it or not, they stopped working. And now I have to admit, I use two browsers. So there's a possibility that I was on the wrong browser. And I'm realizing that now, and DuckDuckGo now supports passkeys, or fairly recently they started. So I imagine that'll be a separate invitation to create a passkey and then, etc. So maybe that really is the reason behind it. But given what you've explained today, they seem to be relatively bulletproof. Or how can I mess up the bulletproof on my end would be a better question.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely going to address that because you have kind of hit on something here. So if you keep things really simple and you only ever use one authenticator, then everything will be extremely bulletproof. So the easiest way to do that is to only use Safari, and then everything goes into your iCloud keychain. Your iCloud keychain follows you everywhere. Therefore, magic happens and it just works. But if you step off the reservation and you use, maybe you like one password because you want to synchronize stuff, you want to share stuff with family or whatever. Well, now you need to remember, did I put that passkey in iCloud or did I put that passkey in one password? And if you say make 20 passkeys in one password, decide you've had enough of one password and you switch to using iCloud keychain, well, those 20 passkeys are now gone because those private keys are in one password, not in iCloud keychain. So it's easier to use one system, pick one and stick with it. But in the early days when you're experimenting, it's very easy to, use one browser and then use another browser and play around, especially a year ago when everything was much newer and there were a lot more rough edges. So really, my best advice is pick one single authenticator that synchronizes everywhere you want your stuff to be and just keep yourself in that one little universe that is your universe.
And that should also work on iPhone if I use Safari on the Mac.
Yes. Yeah, this is
Okay, because
why,
that's been
yeah.
okay. Yeah, thanks. I want to yield to Melissa, also from my user group here in Tucson, because she has an excellent question.
Before that, sorry, I'd really like to keep these in order. So can I, yeah,
Oh,
otherwise
I'm sorry.
my
Yeah,
brain will
sure.
explode. John Morgan, please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Bart, I guess there's a lot of topical news about phishing attacks and cybercrime at the moment. What's to stop all these bad hat people getting inside the alliance?
Well, even if you're inside the alliance, it doesn't actually gain you anything because what's being handed around here are things that are like the alliance isn't the keeper of secrets. The alliance is the steward of a public standard, which everyone can see. The code is all open source. So if you succeed in infiltrating something that's completely open, well, if you try to do anything nefarious, you're going to be caught straight away because you're effectively in a glass house. So there's no value in secretly breaking into a glass house because it's a glass house.
Thank you.
Okay. Melissa, sorry, you're next. All yours if you'd like to unmute. Thank you.
Hey, Bart. Long time no see. So I asked the question in the chat. I'll just read it out loud. Modern authentication you talked about in the slide. So you're talking about the multiple ways to log in. So you've got your 2FA, you've got your one-time password. So I'll pick on Amazon for an example. That was one of the first ones out of the gate here. I was wondering, so let's say, great, Amazon has a passkey. Okay, I just want to use a passkey with Amazon. Okay, Amazon, I've got my passkey now. Can I delete my password? I don't need the password anymore. Why don't they let me delete my password? Because, like you explained, well, everybody's got to get used to this idea. They still want to be able to use passwords because, people have to kind of buy into this. So let's say people are still using Monkey as their password, but they've also got passkeys set up. So I take it that, say, Amazon still keeps my password and it's Monkey. It doesn't matter that my password is Monkey. It's a weak, terrible password and it's reused everywhere else. As long as I've got that passkey there, that protects it. I can just still keep using Monkey to log in until we phase out passwords altogether. So it doesn't matter that Monkey is compromised.
Right. So this is why we're on a journey, because we can't go from where we are to the utopia of passkeys only in one step for all sorts of practical reasons. For a start, people will be terrified.
Yes.
Secondly, I couldn't imagine being on user support in Amazon if they one day went straight from the old way to you must now use passkeys.
Yeah.
I think that would be the end of Amazon for a start. I think it would bankrupt them. So you are right to lay out the fact that in this middle phase, we're still not where we want to be, because the weakest link of a chain is where the chain will break, right? So I would argue it's less onerous to have really long icky passwords if you use a passkey to log in all the time. But you're right, the vulnerability is still there. And it can't go away until enough people are using passkeys that someone like Amazon feels comfortable to give you the button that says remove the password.
I've got another kind of side question to add on to that. So there's also the issue, and maybe you're going to talk about this, or maybe you've gotten to it already, the issue of technical debt. And we see that a lot in the finance industry and in the medical industry. So you've got these antiquated websites. So you go on, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, and you're the lead singer. And I'm telling my clients, you've got to have great password hygiene. And I'm teaching them how to use 1Password. And I keep telling them, you only have this one password to remember in addition to your PIN to unlock your phone. And I tell them, no, it's fine. We'll make these gobbledygook passwords. And we go in there, and then they have some bank that I've never heard of. And I show them how to set it up. And the bank says, great, here's, you've made this really complex password. You put it in the first line. And then the second field says, nope, can't copy and paste. You've got to hand type it in. And then that's where I go, I made a liar out of me, And so you have those sites like that where they don't allow copy and paste, or they just simply don't allow you to really engage with your credential manager to copy and paste. And so now we're back to, well, why did I even bother? I'm just gonna use Monkey. So then we're back to that. So do you think, in lines with technical debt, how expensive do you think it will be to implement passkeys? Could that be a solution? Could that be something that will help out these companies who are experiencing this technical debt? Will they be able to implement passkeys to kind of smooth that over so that all those people that are still using Monkey with their financial and their patient portals, it won't matter that they're using Monkey to log in, because they'll be able to easily be able to inject passkeys into their, like a vaccination almost, for their website.
Well, okay, so there's no magic bullet to pay off technical debt, because it always costs money to change something. Not doing anything is always cheaper than doing anything. But
Not in the long
passkeys
run.
being, yeah, well, fair, which is an argument I make a lot with my work hat on. Think bigger. Anyway, because passkeys are a standard with so much support, there are passkey libraries available for just about every programming language you care to come up with. So the barrier to entry to passkeys is, as these things go, low. I expect there will be a stick to match that carrot. So the carrot is, it's standard, it's easy. The stick is going to be regulation, especially banking
Like
and healthcare.
PHRs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything with personally identifiable information in Europe, you're going to get hit with that stick first and hardest because of the GDPR. But you have HIPAA, you have the credit card industry is actually way further ahead on standards than the American government. But credit card industry, if PCI suddenly says you have to do passkeys, well, that's kind of half the internet done, because who doesn't take credit cards? Well, they're out here to make money. So if PCI push the button that says you have to do passkeys, then it'll happen. So I would say a year ago, we were very, very, very far away from passkeys everywhere. We're a lot closer this year. If that can happen in a year, stay tuned for another year, 2, 3. I think we'll be in a much better place.
Brilliant.
That's helpful. So that's not to say don't give up on passkeys. Yes, everybody needs to get on the boat now, because this is where we're heading. Because eventually companies are going to want to protect. That's what I've been saying to everybody. They're going to protect their bottom line by going with passkeys. So you gotta learn how to do it now.
Yep.
Thank you, Bart.
So
thank you.
Just to whip through a few short ones. Paul Griffith says, do passkeys last forever, or can they have an expiry date?
They last until either the website says they don't. So the website can choose to take your public key and throw it away. There's nothing in the specification that says they do or don't last forever. The website chooses how long it wants to trust your public key. I have never heard of them being set to expire, but a website is free to delete your account whenever it feels like it. A website is free to make you do it again whenever it feels like it. So there's nothing in the spec to say it can't, but I've never seen them expire.
Brilliant. Mitch Byers says, I'm not getting prompts to set up passkeys.
That would imply that you may be on an operating system that doesn't yet support them, or that the websites you use and the websites that support passkeys have an overlap of 0.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It will become less likely over time.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, like I use Safari, I use on an iPad, I use Amazon, I use my bank, Bank of America in the United States, I use Merrill Lynch, and none of those sites, all those sites, I have complicated passcodes that I keep either in 1Password or I keep in passwords on the Apple device, and other than Best Buy when it first started, I think they were one of the first ones that said. But even Best Buy, if I sign in, it just prompts me and my username and passwords put in from those other sites. So I mean, this whole passkey thing is just like a mystery to me as to when it's ever going to happen.
Okay, so probably one of the things that may be slower to happen is for a website to start pushing existing users into passkeys who already have working passwords. So what I'm seeing at the moment is that if you sign up for the first time, sites will tend to offer you the passkey. But if you've had an account for years, I think they're taking an if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. And so they're not proactively telling you to upgrade. But if you say Amazon's a good example of this. So Amazon will never say to you, hey, you who have an account and who are giving me money all the time, why don't you change? But if you go into your security settings in your Amazon account, there's a button there to add a passkey. So, and if you were to start from scratch, they may well offer you a passkey, but they're not yet at the stage where they're proactively pushing it to people who already have accounts.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bart.
And so if I do that and I use password and my wife used password, and so we use the same password, is she going to be able to get in and unlock it?
Well, so the way you would address that would be to have, so this idea, so we said this idea of modern authentication, it can have multiple ways of logging into one account. So you would have a passkey for you and she would have a passkey for her.
Okay, thank you.
Last question for the moment is from Jill Patton. Jill, I'll just quickly read it if I may. Will having a passkey do away with some websites requiring one to tick sections of a captures we're talking about here, sections of a picture that might contain bridges, motorcycles, etc.? I never get those right first time. I don't think anybody gets those right first time. I assume the answer to that is it will
maybe.
Them. Oh.
Well, it kind of depends. The question is, why is the website putting that picture there? So is it because the website offers something for free and it costs them money to offer it for free, therefore they need to rate limit it from being abused by robots? Or is it because they're afraid you're going to keep trying 20 million username and password combinations and they're trying to rate limit you, in which case that should go away with passkeys? So it kind of depends on why is the website so determined to keep the robots out? It's right. Again, it doesn't solve. That's not the job. A passkey's job isn't to prove you're human. It's to prove your identity. You could be a robot with a passkey, whereas the bridges are designed to tell the robots apart from the humans. Yeah, I'm not always a human. I sometimes.
Okay, we have more questions, but let's save them for a bit because I certainly don't want you to run out of time. So,
okay. Well, we're now at a kind of, you stopped me at a perfect time here, because in a world where we had one computer, this is everything you'd need to know. But of course, That's not the world we live in. We live in a world where, I have my watch, I have my phone, I have my iPad, I have my laptop, I have this desktop I'm talking to you on, and then I have a work laptop and a work phone. So that's not unusual. So obviously, we need to have passkeys on multiple devices. So there are 3 different mechanisms for having that happen. So if you let the operating system be your authenticator, so for Apple people, that means letting iCloud do it, then the operating system takes care of that for you, and your passkeys will magically exist everywhere within that ecosystem. So if you're an Apple user and you are signed into iCloud, then your passkeys will synchronize securely to all of your Apple devices that use the same Apple ID. If you're in Windows land and you sign into Windows with a Windows Hello account of some sort, then your passkeys will synchronize to all of your Windows devices. If you're an Android user, you use the Google keychain, your passkeys will sync to all of your Android devices. You get the idea. So the operating system can synchronize if you use the operating system as your authenticator. If you're the kind of person who sits on lots of different operating systems, then it's actually easier to have something else be your authenticator, which is where which is why there's still a need for things like 1Password, because 1Password is a passkeys authenticator. So is Bitwarden. So you can choose to live in the 1Password universe, and then your passkeys will synchronize across everything you have 1Password installed on, which is you could have the same passkeys on your Mac, your Windows machine, your Android phone. You could just have them everywhere. And if you have 1Password for families, well, you can actually share a single passkey between multiple human beings, because 1Password will synchronize that to everyone who has access to the vault. So if you're happy to live in the password manager universe, then your password manager can synchronize your passkeys. But even if all that fails, or if all that isn't relevant because you're traveling and you're sitting at a computer that is not your computer, therefore it does not have your 1Password, it definitely isn't logged into your iCloud, so how do you get your passkeys? The specification has actually provided a way to use a passkey on one of your devices from any other computer. So the way this works is with a QR code that you scan from the device that has your passkey. And then the QR code effectively hands over the job to the device that has your passkey. It does all the work, and then you're magically locked in on the other computer straight away. It's kind of magic. So you'd be, let's say you're on a cruise ship or something, and you're sitting at a computer in a kiosk somewhere, and you need to log into your Gmail to send an email telling everyone how great the Caribbean is. And you go to log into Gmail and it says, oh, where's your passkey? You click the button that says use another device, and it will show a QR code. You take your phone out of your pocket, you scan the QR code, and then you log into Gmail on your phone. And as soon as you're finished on your phone, the kiosk will be logged in. And it is all actually done by handing it over using the QR code, but actually there's a check done over Bluetooth to make sure that you're physically close to the kiosk, just to stop any kind of abuses. And as I say, when you're finished, you end up logged in on the other device, and that other device never even had your passkey. So you haven't actually given anything to that other device. So it can't leak it or steal it or anything, which is kind of cool as well. So that's the theory. Let's see what this looks like for real. And because this is a Mac user group, let's just use Apple. Let's use Apple's ecosystem. If you would like to play in a completely safe environment, there's a website called Passkeys.io where they will let you make a passkey, play with it, and then you can delete it again. It doesn't do anything, right? The website does nothing. It just lets you make a passkey, log in, log out. That's it. That's all it does. So I gave this talk a few weeks ago and I tried to do a live demo and I regretted it. So I'm not going to do that tonight because we've already gone on, quite a few questions and stuff. So I'm just going to make you use screenshots, but Passkeys.io, you can play along for yourself. So when you open Passkeys.io, you get given a sign in or sign up or a sign in with passkey button. Well, we've just arrived. We don't have a passkey yet, so we need to create one. So you can literally make up any username you like I went with you at yourdomain.blah, and it was perfectly happy with that. It really doesn't care because it's a test site, right? So you type in some sort of identity and you hit continue, and then it will say, oh, I don't know you at yourdomain.blah. Do you want to create a new account? And you go, sure, sign up. And then it says, okay, to sign up, you're going to have to create a passkey. Okay, then I'll click the button, create a passkey. At this point, Safari kicks in because the web authoring protocol has said, hey, authenticator, time for you to come into being here, make a passkey. So Safari pops up and makes you unlock your keychain with your fingerprint. And once you do that, what's actually happened behind the scenes is iCloud has made a passkey. The public key has been handed to the website, but it all happens in a split second. So what you see is I touch my fingerprint and I'm logged in. Behind the scenes, it's made the passkey, saved the private key into your iCloud keychain, given the public key to the website. But all of that has happened by Safari just within milliseconds. So hey presto, you're now logged in with your new passkey. Just like that. If you open up the settings app on your Mac and you go to the passwords tab in your settings app and you look for passkeys.io, you will see a passkey has been created called passkeys.io with the username you at yourdomain.blah. So the passkey exists. When I took out my iPhone, I went into the settings app and I went to the password area in the settings app and I did exactly the same search. Hey presto, the same passkey was there on my iPhone because iCloud keychain synchronized the two of them within seconds. Like I did it in as much time as it took me to open the settings app, the passkey had synchronized from one device to the other. To use my passkey on passkey.io, same front page. This time, instead of saying sign in or sign up, I click the button that says sign in with passkey. Safari pops up and says, hey, unlock the authenticator, which is hiding your private or protecting your private key. Touch my fingerprint. The private key is unlocked. The website sends a random gibberish. The random gibberish gets decrypted. The result of the decryption gets handed back. That all happens in a split second. Hey presto, logged straight back in. So what I see is simply push the button, scan my fingerprint, logged in. But behind the scenes, all of this public key cryptography is happening in a nice and secure way. So that's simple passkeys. What happens if I don't have my device? So to prove this, I took my work laptop, which uses a completely different Apple ID, which means my passkey never synchronized to my work laptop because it doesn't use my personal Apple ID. I don't like to mix the streams. So on my work laptop, I go to the same website and it does not have my passkey. This is equivalent to me being on the cruise ship. So I click the sign in with passkeys button, only there is no passkey. So what Safari pops up is not please scan your fingerprint because it doesn't have a passkey. What it pops up instead is how? How would you like to try get into this website with a passkey since I don't have one for you? And the default option is to use a passkey from a device with a camera. The other option is a hardware dongle, but that's for people who are way more fancy than us. So I simply tick the tick box, which is ticked by default, to use the passkey on a different device. And I click continue. And now a QR code is displayed on my work laptop. So my work laptop, which does not have my passkey, has shown this QR code. I now take my iPhone out of my pocket, which does have my passkey, and I open the camera app by just push the icon on the home screen, on the lock screen. And as soon as the camera app sees a QR code, it will give you this yellow button that says sign in with a passkey. I tap the yellow button. It does Face ID. And within a second, on my work laptop, I'm logged in. Okay, so that's all the shiny stuff working as it should. But we live in the real world where everything isn't quite shiny just yet. So this is the bit where I say right now, today in 2024, this is the rough edges that you're still going to encounter. So passkeys will only work on a new operating system. In Apple land, that means we need to be on macOS Ventura or newer, and we can get partial support on Safari 16, on Monterey or Big Sur, but really to get a good experience, you need to be on Ventura. If you're in your iPhone or your iPad, you need to be on iPad or iOS 16. If you're in Windows world, you need to be on Windows 11. Windows 10 has very basic support. Anything older, no support at all. If you're in Android universe, you have to be on at least Android 14 with some poor support going back to Android 9. If you're the kind of person who likes to use Safari, great, you have built-in support in Safari. But if you prefer to use third-party browsers, you are in a little bit more difficult of a situation. For example, Firefox cannot talk to iCloud Keychain. So if you have all of your passkeys saved by Safari in your iCloud Keychain and you open up Firefox, even on the same Mac, Firefox can't talk to iCloud, therefore no passkey for you. However, you can use the 1Password plugin. So if you're the kind of person who likes to use third-party browsers, you might consider being the kind of person who uses a password manager. You might consider 1Password or Bitwarden, because then you can use any browser that supports 1Password or Bitwarden and passkeys will work. But that's annoying to have to make that choice. So like I say, if you stay on the reservation, you stay in Apple Land, you stay in Safari, it's all great. But once you go off the reservation, you need to make some more decisions. Probably the most annoying thing is that passkeys are new enough that every website does passkeys differently. They can't even agree on an icon, let alone on the name to give the button, let alone on how to actually set one up. So you can go into your settings in Amazon and click a button to make a passkey. The settings to do the same on GitHub are in a completely different place. The setting to do the same on Google are in a completely different place. Every website is making it up as they go along. I am sure that over time, everyone will learn from each other and a best practice will emerge and they'll all start doing it the same way. But that ain't the case in 2024. And that is the single most annoying thing, because people say to me, well, Bart, I use blah-de-blah app. How do I do a passkey? And I'm like, I don't use that app. I literally don't know. And yeah, that's just how it is today. Every website is doing their own thing. We are on the cutting edge here. This isn't new. Another way to really tie yourself in knots is to have lots of authenticators installed on the same computer. So then you end up going, where did I put that passkey? Did I stick it in Bitwarden? Did I stick it in 1Password? Or did I stick it in iCloud Keychain? The other thing that can happen is if you have half of your passkeys in iCloud and half of your passkeys in 1Password, and you go to a website, both of them may pop up on screen at the same time. And then you're going, do I click the Safari button or the 1Password button? So things can get a bit confusing if you're using two ecosystems. So I would say choose one ecosystem and stay there. And then the other pain point is if you're the kind of person who mixes and matches Windows and Android and Mac and iOS, you need to have some sort of a third-party synchronization tool. And the two that have the best support are 1Password and Bitwarden. They will work across Mac, Windows, and Android. And Bitwarden will even go as far as Linux for you, which is really, really, really good. So 1Password is good, Bitwarden is technically slightly better. So that is just the reality in 2024. In 2023, this was way worse. In 2025, this will be less of an issue. But right now, today, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that this is reality. This is where the rough edges are. And they're real, and they're rough, and they can hurt. Okay, a question that I'm going to preempt, because I know it's going to come up, is what if I lose my passkey? It is not an unreasonable question to ask. But it's identical to the question we've all been asking for the last 30 years. What if I lose my password? And websites have answered that question by having reset mechanisms. It's no different with a passkey. They may send you a reset link by email. They may send you some sort of a token, my SMS. They may, if it's your bank, when I get any new phone, my bank makes me re-authenticate, and I have to actually phone them, and we have a big conversation where I have to prove that I am who I say I am and stuff. And there's the old save these recovery codes thing that some websites will do as well. So whatever the answer is today to what do I do if I lose my password, that is exactly the same answer to the question, what do I do if I lose my pass key? No different, no change. One thing I will say is in the world of modern authentication, losing one pass key is only one of the many potential ways to log into your account. So if you have 3 different ways of logging into Amazon and you lose one of them, when you can still get into Amazon 2 ways to fix whatever is broken. So modern authentication does make it a little bit easier to get back in because losing one method doesn't automatically mean you've lost everything. So that's just, important to note. So let's just remind ourselves of what I have hopefully imparted today. Passwords are fundamentally flawed. They are built on misplaced trust. They cannot be made safe. They have to go. Passkeys, being built on public key cryptography, are secure by design because they work by sharing public information only, the public key. You can synchronize passkeys across your devices either by letting your operating system do it or by letting something like 1Password do it. You can use a passkey on your phone from any other computer on the world by scanning the QR code, which is nice fallback. And thankfully, every new operating system released in 2024 has passkey support, and so do the default browsers in every operating system, so Edge and Safari. So that is where we stand today. And with that, let the floodgates open.
Yeah, it's Mitch. I went on to that passkey directory that somebody put a link to, and that was very helpful. But I noticed that there were not very many financial institutions listed at all. In general, financial institutions have a backward mentality toward this great new passkey system?
Backward mentality might be assigning a little bit too much intention to it. Financial institutions move slowly because the risk of getting it wrong is very, very high for them. So financial institutions, ironically, tend to be very slow to adopt technology, even though they probably should be there first because they have such important stuff to protect. But my general experience with the financial industry is they're like an oil tanker. They don't change direction quickly. They will get there and they will go where they're supposed to go, but they're not going to be first.
And so back to the husband-wife thing, we both use the same Apple ID.
Okay.
We for purchases of any kind of app. Now we have our separate Apple IDs for like our mail accounts. But like, getting back to Amazon, I noticed on this list, Amazon was there and it said hit here to set this up. So from what you said before, it sounds like I need to set it up and then I need to have her set it up as well, or at least have her go in and see if she can open it up without setting it up. Is that correct?
Right. So the question is, when you're logged into your iPhone, when you're using computers, if you go to the iCloud settings in the system preferences, will it show the same Apple ID on your devices and on her devices?
No.
Okay, then you're going to need to each set up your own passkey.
Yeah, the only one it shows the same on is when we're subscribed to something like an app or that kind of a thing. But with the Apple ID underneath our name is different.
Okay, so that's where your passkey goes.
Saying.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So it's the one under your name is where your passkeys are. And so if that's different, then you're two different people as far as Apple is concerned. And then you would indeed need to set up one each. Now, keep an eye on the next version of Mac OS 10 or Mac OS that's about to come out, because Apple are introducing a standalone password manager app as part of the next operating system releases. And one of the things in there is family sharing. So it may be that if you wait until September, October, there's literally going to be a button that says share all of my passkeys with everyone in my family.
Well, I'm on the beta now, so I'll take a look and see if
Ooh.
that's there.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it
I'm not
says,
sure if it's good for matrimonial bliss to ask your wife to be on the beta as well. I'm not sure I'd advise that.
no. She wouldn't be on the beta, but it does say when you pull up one of the sites, it says add trusted contacts, choose what to share. We're in
Actually,
control.
a bonus tip actually is that when you have multiple people in a family, it's actually good to set up Apple ID family sharing if you haven't done that already.
We've got that set up. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then should be easier to share the passkeys as well, because it won't be sharing it with a stranger. It'll be sharing it with other people in the family, and it'll know all about it. So you should be good to go.
All right. Thank you. This was an excellent presentation, and I don't know who and by the way, I didn't get a link to the notes for today's presentation. Have you posted those yet?
No, I've hit a wall, and I'll probably end up just emailing it to everybody. For some reason, the ability to choose a file from my Mac is grayed out. So that's the problem. I'll deal with it another time. But rest assured, you'll get it. But John Cook asked a question which Melissa very kindly answered in chat, but I wouldn't mind, John, if you just unmute and ask the question, just in case some other members aren't following chat and find this to be useful information.
Yeah,
John?
okay. I've unmuted. I thought
Thank you.
Yeah, the question was this. I haven't got many passkeys, but I did allow Amazon to have one because I hoped that by using a passkey on Amazon, it would stop badgering me for two-factor authentication when I logged in. But it didn't work. It still wants two-factor authentication. And the answer I got from Melissa was that you can turn the two-factor authentication off. But I assume if you do that, it turns it off for everything. And since Amazon have still got a password recorded for me, that would mean a scam artist would have a much easier time logging into my account because now they wouldn't have to use two-factor authentication. So it seems a bit strange. You can't have the one without the other.
Well, that's Amazon's choice, right? So again, none of that is really to do with passkeys. That's with Amazon's choice of how to have the different options interact with each other. What I would suggest you could do is you can fake not having a password by literally going to a random number generator, getting a 256 character random piece of gibberish and setting that as the password, and you don't even have to save it. Right. And at that point you have yourself one pretty darn good password. In which case you probably can turn off the two-factor authentication because no one's going to scam you out of it because you don't know it.
True. Okay.
Melissa, you have your hand raised. Would you like to unmute and ask a question?
So I gave a presentation similar to this one back in February. And the reason why I say the date is because in my notes, and I can't find the answer again, but I have a screenshot here. I tried to paste it in the chat, but pasting files is disallowed. There was a note from apple.com. And I had taken a screenshot of it, and it said in the notes, I'll just read it for you. It says passkeys for Apple accounts are automatically generated by any Apple devices signed into an Apple ID running iOS 17 or macOS Sonoma or newer. So those are the specs that you need to have. You will then be able to sign in with passkeys on Apple using any iOS device or Mac signed in to the same Apple ID you are signing into. If you're using a different browser or device, such as a Windows PC or Mac signed in with a different Apple ID, you can scan the QR code using your iOS device and sign in with passkeys on Apple. And so Bart covered that in his presentation. But at the very bottom, it says you are not yet able to save passkeys for Apple ID accounts in third-party credential managers and can only be stored in iCloud passwords at this time. and that was in February. So my question is, do you know if that has changed? Because I couldn't find that verbiage anywhere in recent history.
My feeling is it probably hasn't, because when you're logging into iCloud, the issue isn't logging into the iCloud.com website with the passkey. The issue is going to be using that passkey to, say, log in the system preferences page. And at that point, how could one password has no opportunity to inject itself when you're logging into something that isn't a web page. So I imagine, right? I imagine that is still the case, because you're logging into your actual operating system, which is a very special case.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna do there. And then I just in looking at it on the developer website, there's some, you can look at this later. It says streamline sign in with passkey upgrades and credential managers. So maybe they're working on something.
Well, they could always provide an API. I mean, there are already APIs for Safari to ask 1Password for help. So why couldn't macOS ask 1Password for help? But they'd have to do it. So I don't think it's technically infeasible, but I haven't heard that it's done. I'm just looking in the chat here to a very easy question from Chris. Will it make your life easier if you have a keyboard with a fingerprint reader? Yes.
Very much easier.
Because then you won't be typing in your password as much. Yes.
So long as you don't have a heart condition or take blood pressure medication that impacts your pulse, and so long as you have good elasticity and good conductivity within your fingerprints, because I know people who have lost their fingerprints or just their elasticity over the years, and for them, fingerprint scanners don't work quite as well. I do highly recommend that you scan your fingerprint multiple times, the same finger, scan it like 2, 3, 4 times, as many as you can. And that could raise the likelihood. It's not a perfect system. It is what it is. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. Unfortunately, we don't have Face ID on the Mac just yet.
Well, Chris actually asked another question, just one or two questions up from the one you just read. Is it possible to reset the monkey password with a passkey and hence get rid of the old monkey password? I think you sort of answered that, and I think it's no.
It kind of depends on the website at the end of the day, right? Does the website let you remove password as a sign-in option? And that is where we're going. But there's very few websites are quite ready to do that yet. Kind of scary from their point of view.
Jill Patton, you asked a question about Amazon. Would you like to just unmute and hurl that screenwards?
Hello, yes. I don't have much technical knowledge, I'm afraid, and not much expertise, but I believe that the passkey was mentioned possibly by Amazon when I was logging in. I can't remember whether or not I did anything about it. And I just had a look on my phone to see whether there's any passkeys recorded there in passwords. I can't see anything, so possibly I didn't. On the other hand, I may not be looking in the right place.
Well, if you open the passwords thing in the settings app and you type in Amazon and the passkey isn't listed, then the answer is you didn't.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you.
I think that covers everything in chat. Does anybody else have a question that they'd like to ask Bart? And if so, please unmute and fire away. You've stunned them into silence.
I was going to say, there was a lot of... I mentioned encryption quite a few times. I think I've given people plenty to think about.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I must confess, when we started talking passkeys, I thought, how can you spend an entire meeting talking about? And it's actually such an enormous subject. So I'm brilliantly covered, and thank you very much indeed for spending time with us this evening. Folks, I'm sorry about the PDF. I don't. In fact, perhaps this is a good time to ask if anybody knows Ferrers. Do you know why? When I click on the file icon in chat, my computer is grayed out, and I have the choice of Dropbox, no use, Microsoft OneDrive, no use, Google Drive, no use, Box, don't even know what that is, and Microsoft SharePoint, but no access to my own computer.
And I tried to drag and drop it in, and doesn't
no,
do
I
it.
tried
It just
that.
ignores
No,
it.
no, it won't
I
work.
had the same problem when I gave a presentation in Colorado because you have to go into Zoom on the website and you have to change the permissions and the settings there. But you have
Okay.
to have done it prior to the presentation starting. You
Sure.
have to allow the permissions for other presenters, people to be able to add files in the chat.
Thanks, Melissa. I'll
can
look
do it
into
now.
that before next time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I will send the file to everybody on my mailing list. So if you've come as a friend of somebody on that mailing list, ask your friend to pass it on. Okay. Oh, it's about 9 minutes to 9, so we've made fantastic timing, and thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. I hope that we'll see lots of you Suffolk folk at the end of next month at the Rushmere Village Hall. Enjoy this fabulous summer, and thank you very much again, Bart. And everybody, if you'd like to just unmute and spread your love.
Thank you, Bart.
Thanks, Bart.
Thanks, Bart.
Thank you, Bart.
Extremely interesting.
Excellent
Very
presentation.
interesting, Bart. Thank you.
Lots to think about. I look forward to working in more sites.
Yeah, absolutely. We all do. And look, thank you, folks. You were a very fun group to chat to. I always enjoy coming to chat to you guys. So thank you for having me again.
Brilliant.
Bart, we got a podcast about this sometime.
Yes,
we love talking
absolutely.
about this stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic.
If you still have
DM
my
me.
contact details, well, I was going to say, if you don't have my contact details, Mike, can you connect the two of us?
Yeah.
Yes, of
Pretty
course.
sure we do.
Perfect.
Of course, I'll do that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, folks, enjoy
Thanks
your
very much,
evening.
everyone. Have a good evening and good morning, good day.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Get some sleep.